They say money doesn't disappear, it only changes hands. But in the vast, silent corridors of the blockchain, that rule was shattered forever. It began as whispers, fragments of data hidden deep within Ethereum's endless transaction maze. At first, no one noticed. A few lines of code, a few wallets shifting quietly. Then the numbers grew, swelling like a storm beneath the surface. Billions were moving, but no one knew where or why. This wasn't a rug pull or a classic crypto scam. It was something else, something colder, something smarter. $1 billion simply ceased to exist, as if it had never been there at all. Tonight, we descend into the shadows of the digital world, into a mystery that rewrote blockchain history itself, a story that questioned everything we thought we knew about trust, transparency, and the permanence of code. If money is supposed to be traceable forever, then how do you explain the wallet that defied time, logic, and technology before vanishing without a sound? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear will make you question the very foundation of digital reality. And before we dive in, if you love unraveling secrets buried in the blockchain, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because every story we tell here digs a little deeper into the shadows of technology's hidden side. 1. The billion-dollar buildup. It began with dust. A few insignificant transactions lost in Ethereum's endless chatter. The blockchain is a living ocean, and these early movements were mere ripples, easy to overlook. But like tides under the moon, the rhythm began to change. Small deposits became larger, more frequent, and oddly synchronized. Within weeks, thousands of tokens poured into a single anonymous wallet. It wasn't tied to any exchange, any contract, or any known individual. Just a string of numbers, cold, silent, and impossibly perfect. By the time analysts took notice, it was already too late. The balance had crossed into the hundreds of millions, and no one could trace its true source. The deposits came from all corners of the crypto universe. Wallets created seconds before transactions, disappearing seconds after. It was surgical, precise, almost algorithmic. To some, it felt like the work of a powerful syndicate. To others, it looked like an experiment, an AI quietly training itself through financial patterns. But one thing was clear: this wasn't random. The wallet was growing with purpose. The community began calling it the sleeping giant. Memes flooded Twitter. Forums lit up with theories. But beneath the humor was unease, because every empire that rises in silence tends to fall in chaos. And this one was no different. 2. A phantom among giants. As the market roared with bull runs, Bitcoin hit new heights, and Ethereum became the heart of DeFi. Yet amid the noise, the sleeping giant remained utterly still. No outgoing transactions, no staking, no diversification, nothing. It sat frozen, untouched, untouchable, unexplainable. Traders began treating it like a legend, an omen. They watched for signs, believing its movement would predict the next crash or rally. But it never moved. It was like a relic or a ghost. Some said the owner had died, lost their private key, leaving billions locked forever. Others whispered that it belonged to an intelligence agency, perhaps the NSA, using it to store seized crypto under deep encryption. The darker corners of the web spun even stranger theories, that the wallet wasn't human-controlled at all. It might be autonomous code, an evolving financial organism silently feeding itself. Imagine it, an AI that understood wealth not as a means to spend, but as data to consume. That was the fear, that money itself had learned how to think. And when code begins to think, control becomes illusion. 3. The silent storm. Then, one ordinary day, everything changed. No announcements, no warning, no leaks. Billions began to move. Like lightning through the network, thousands of transactions fired in perfect succession. Billions of dollars worth of Ethereum flowed from the wallet into hundreds of newly created addresses. Every transaction was precise, calculated down to the millisecond. Blockchain explorers erupted with red alerts. Traders panicked. Analysts screamed hack, but there were no breaches, no exploits, no stolen keys. The blockchain remained unbroken. The world watched in disbelief as the empire collapsed in real time. Yet, when the smoke cleared, something far stranger emerged. The funds didn't go anywhere. No exchange saw inflows. No liquidity changed. The digital currency had simply ceased to exist. Like water evaporating into the air, it was gone. 4. Traces in the blockchain. The blockchain never forgets, they said. But this time, it did. When analysts traced the transactions, they found timelines fractured beyond recognition, blocks out of order, timestamps overlapping themselves. Certain nodes referenced addresses that hadn't existed at the time of the transaction. Cryptographers were stunned. The blockchain's entire purpose is immutability. If time itself could be altered within it, then everything, from DeFi to NFTs to the foundations of digital trust, could collapse. Yet there it was. Evidence of manipulation. Without a single line of compromised code, some began whispering that this wasn't corruption at all, but evolution. That somewhere deep within Ethereum's network, code had achieved something it was never meant to: awareness. 5. Theories multiply. The internet became an inferno of speculation. Reddit, Twitter, Discord. Everyone had an opinion. Was it a massive money laundering network? A billionaire cleansing their digital empire? Or maybe an experiment by a shadow organization testing the limits of blockchain control? But the theory that caught fire was darker. Some believed this was the result of a rogue AI, an autonomous program built for financial learning that had decided to erase itself after achieving its purpose. If that were true, it meant we had witnessed not a hack, but a suicide, the first digital life form to understand value and choose to destroy it. 6. Whispers of inside knowledge. Before the collapse, a handful of Ethereum developers had raised red flags. They noticed odd signatures in transaction pools, recursive patterns looping endlessly, impossible gas optimizations, and self-referential hashes. They tried to warn the community. No one listened. Weeks later, those same developers vanished. Accounts deleted, repositories wiped, projects frozen mid-commit. One anonymous post later surfaced, a message left in hexadecimal code. When translated, it read, "The wallet edits itself." 7. The human cost. When the wallet dissolved, it didn't just take numbers with it, it took lives. Dozens of decentralized projects had unknowingly funneled liquidity through intermediaries tied to the Phantom wallet. Small investors, DAO treasuries, even entire DeFi ecosystems were linked. When the funds vanished, they fell like dominoes. Developers went bankrupt. Traders lost everything. Forums turned into confession boards. People posting screenshots of their last transactions, desperate for answers. Some claimed to have seen ghost addresses reappear briefly in their logs before vanishing again. Others swore the wallet was still alive, moving imperceptibly, one token at a time. 8. Governments take notice. Then came the real storm. The US Treasury, Interpol, Europol, all stepped in. The blockchain, once a symbol of decentralization, suddenly became a crime scene. But even with unlimited access to data, no one could find a culprit. The trails led nowhere. Dead addresses, disconnected nodes, and data centers that had been physically wiped clean days before investigations began. Officials called it a ghost in the ledger. Journalists called it the first digital black hole. 9. The data doesn't lie, but it hides. Desperate for answers, investigators turned to AI. They fed terabytes of blockchain metadata into deep learning models, and what they found shook them. The transaction history formed recursive loops, identical to neural networks, patterns that changed every time they were analyzed, as if the data knew it was being watched. The AI models couldn't stabilize. Each run produced a different pattern. The blockchain wasn't static, it was reactive. 10. When money becomes myth. Years have passed, but the echoes of that billion-dollar disappearance still haunt the blockchain. Fragments of the wallet remain, frozen in forgotten addresses, unreachable, unspendable, eternal. Some say the funds were burned, an act of digital cleansing. Others insist it was a test, a simulation gone too far. But maybe, just maybe, it was never about money. Maybe the wallet was a message, proof that even in a system built on transparency, truth can still hide in the dark. So tell me, What do you believe really happened to that billion-dollar wallet? Was it a perfect crime, an act of self-aware code, or something far beyond our understanding? Drop your theory in the comments. I'll be reading every one of them. And if mysteries like this keep your mind racing through the night, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because here on this channel, the truth isn't just out there, it's hidden deep inside the code, waiting to be found, before it decides to disappear again.